The thing about Clive Davis and why I'm suspicious of Clive Davis is how do you commit that many felonies and not spend a day in jail?
Yeah.
I mean, that doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah.
Any comments about Diddy? He credits you as one of his mentors.
So, the FBI just caught Clive Davis trying to flee the country before the truth about him gets exposed, and it would turn out that Clive has been on the FBI radar for a long time. Apparently, Diddy has been in jail singing like a canary to anyone who will listen and exposing all the dark and shady things that Clive Davis did with him back in the day. According to reports, Diddy snitching on Clive is what made the feds decide to look into him more closely, and baby, they did not like what they saw. So now, instead of enjoying his peaceful retirement, all the horrible things Clive did in the past are coming back to haunt him, and he's reportedly on the run. However, the feds aren't letting him get away with it this time, and word on the street is that Clive could be taken into custody if he keeps trying to flee. So, did Diddy really snitch on Clive? And is it true that Clive taught Diddy everything he knows now? Let's break it down. It's no secret that Clive Davis is Diddy's mentor and has been for practically all of his career. Diddy even paid tribute to Clive in 2019 when he received the industry icon honor at Clive's pre-Grammy party. He said, "Clive Davis and Arista Records gave me a chance when I was starting Bad Boy Entertainment. He was one of the first industry executives to really believe in me. I'm forever grateful for him." So, Diddy basically owes his entire career to Clive. I mean, he might have still become a successful producer and music executive without Clive, but he probably wouldn't have become the music mogul he is today without him. However, there have been speculations that Diddy and Clive had more than just a mentor-mentee thing going on. Streets have been saying that Diddy and Clive are lovers and have been for years, but that's not all. There have also been rumors that Clive took advantage of Diddy and that Diddy had to get oiled up and bent over to secure Clive's support as he was starting Bad Boy Records. In fact, some people go as far as saying that Diddy only became the monster he is today because Clive Davis taught him how to become a monster, how to keep artists under a stranglehold with extremely shady contracts, how to make millions at the expense of artists, how to take advantage of people, and importantly, how to delete people who were no longer useful to them or who knew too much for their own good. These whispers got louder when Clive came out of the closet in 2013 in his memoir, The Soundtrack of My Life. In the book, Clive revealed that he started exploring his sexuality after his marriage to his second wife ended. He said he had been in romantic relationships with several men, including a doctor he dated for 13 years and another man who he doesn't name for 7 years. Clive's statements sparked speculation that the unnamed man he was talking about could have been Diddy.
Because I had been 100% heterosexual up until that point. That I opened myself up after the failure.
A lot of people felt like Clive wasn't really giving the full picture, and that he and Diddy were probably already lovers long before Clive came out. And looking at their history together, it kind of makes sense why people would think that. Clive and Diddy's relationship goes back to the early 90s when Diddy was young and trying to get his music career off the ground. At the time, Diddy was working under Andre Harrell at Uptown Records, but it didn't take long for them to start clashing. According to rumors, one of the reasons why Andre and Diddy clashed was that Andre was jealous of the fact that Clive was starting to take an interest in Diddy. As crazy as it sounds, some people believe Andre was the OG boy toy before Diddy ever entered the picture. Jaguar Wright once spilled the tea about how the chain goes from Diddy to Andre Harrell up to Clive Davis. Mentors teaching their mentees how to become worse versions of themselves.
Well, I mean, I didn't get into a whole lot of depth. I just kind of shot a shot because my focus right now is Sean Combs.
Okay. Tell us why. Tell us why.
Because he's a trafficker. And he's using music and entertainment to traffic.
Now, is this just boys, girls, adults, kids?
I mean, from what I've heard from sources that I would consider reliable, it really doesn't matter.
Wow.
I don't think sexuality is something that has anything to do with gender at this point for Sean. I honestly think he's just an extreme narcissist who loves power. He loves the ability to manipulate and control people. Why? Most likely because he was victimized by his mentor, who loved to control people.
And his mentor was
Andre Harrell.
Tell us how
who was mentored by Clive Davis.
Oh God. And don't tell me that Andre Harrell got touched by Clive Davis too.
I'm telling you, I don't know what happened between Andre and Clive. What I do know is that Andre got passed over. Like,
Wow.
How do you go from being the president of Uptown and losing your entire company to your intern?
Anyway, when Diddy eventually got fired from Uptown, Clive was happy to listen to his pitch about his own record label, Bad Boy Records. Diddy convinced Clive that hip-hop was going to become the next big thing in the music industry, and tapping into the culture at that time would be a smart business move. He was right. Clive invested in Diddy's Bad Boy Records, and within a very short period of time, Bad Boy became one of the biggest and most influential record labels in the entire industry. It wasn't just money Clive invested, though. Clive was already a force when it came to music management, and he was behind the success of acts like TLC, Whitney Houston, Brandy, and Kelly Clarkson. He has also worked with several record labels, including Columbia, Arista, BMG, and Sony. So the man knew his onions for sure, but what didn't make sense to a lot of people was why Clive felt the need to even go that hard for Diddy in the first place. However, it all started to make sense when rumors surfaced that Diddy secured his Bad Boy deal by getting on his knees for Clive Davis. Fast forward worse. Clive is also believed to have taught Diddy how to take advantage of his artists for profit while keeping them broke under very oppressive contracts. And when it gets to a point where the artists are no longer making as much money for the label or becoming too difficult to control, they get taken out. This is what a lot of people believe happened between Whitney Houston and Clive Davis. See, there's this thing called a death clause in recording contracts that is basically a way of assuring the recording company will collect all of their money and yours if you die, no matter how you die. Basically, the recording company takes out a life insurance policy on the artist that is sometimes worth more than 10 times the artist's net worth. So when the artist dies, the label can cash in on that sweet, sweet life insurance money, no matter how suspicious the artist's death is. In a case where the artist is no longer performing or meeting recording deadlines, the artist becomes more valuable to their label dead than alive. It's a very shady clause that artists usually miss because it's buried under complicated language. Now, it's believed that Clive Davis knew how to leverage this clause down to science, and he taught Diddy all about it. In fact, rumors have been circulating that Clive had something to do with Whitney's death because he realized she was worth more to him dead than alive. See, towards the end of Whitney's life, she was struggling with her mental health and self-medicating with substances and alcohol. After years of struggling without getting the help she needed, Whitney started to lose her voice, and she couldn't perform as much as she used to. Despite seeing Whitney clearly suffering, Clive decided it was time for her to make a comeback, except everyone who knew her felt she needed at least a few years to recover before she started the grind again. In the days leading up to her death, Whitney reportedly appeared erratic and disheveled. And then on February 11th, 2012, Whitney was found unconscious in her room at the Beverly Hilton, in the bathtub. After there were speculations that there was foul play involved because some of the details didn't add up. For example, Whitney was found inside the bathtub, and it was presumed that she drowned in a state of intoxication. However, according to forensic pathologist Cyril West, the water in the bathtub was practically boiling at over 93 degrees Celsius, or almost 200 degrees Fahrenheit. At that temperature, Whitney was definitely not chilling in the tub unless she was trying to get cooked. And somehow, we're expected to believe she stayed in the water till she passed out and drowned. But it gets even weirder. According to Wecht, Whitney also had several defensive wounds on her, like she was fighting against an attacker. She was apparently face down in a water-filled bathtub with a bloody purge coming from her nose and There were 2 superficial abrasions to her forehead, and there was a superficial abrasion to the left side of the bridge of her nose. How on earth does any of this line up with someone who supposedly fell into the tub and drowned? What made matters worse was the fact that Clive had a very strange reaction to Whitney's death. Despite Whitney's body lying in a bathtub upstairs getting colder by the minute, Clive decided to go on with his pre-Grammy party downstairs. It was almost like he was celebrating her death. He tried to run the theory that Whitney would have wanted the show to go on and that he was doing it to honor her memory.
But the Grammys were the next night. You don't cancel. You turn an evening into a tribute.
You did a magnificent evening.
Into...
Did you give a thought to canceling?
Never.
You never thought?
Never.
Did you ever think...
And the family did not want me to give a thought.
Didn't?
No.
However, Chaka Khan, who was one of Whitney's closest friends, said it was outrageous that Clive continued the party. According to her, there was no way Whitney would ever have been okay with a party going on downstairs while her body lay upstairs. We still don't know if Whitney's death was truly an accidental drowning like they tried to make us believe, but the rumors about Clive Davis being involved keep getting stronger, and Diddy has been borrowing many pages from Clive's book because there have been so many weird or unexplainable deaths around him too.
Uptown Records started with 5 people. Andre Harrell, I'll Be Sure, Heavy D, and Puffy. And Kim was the longest working employee because she was there from the very beginning. She was Andre's personal assistant. Kim is dead. Heavy D is dead.
What's big?
Andre Harrell is dead. The only 2 left are Puffy and Al almost died.
Now, according to reports, Diddy is singing like a bird to the feds and spilling all the dirty secrets he and Clive have together from back in the day. Clive apparently got word that the feds were onto him, so he tried to flee the country. However, the feds aren't letting him get off that easy. Clive has a whole file with the feds already for not 1 but 3 counts of tax evasion dating as far back as 1974. He was also involved in the biggest payola scam in the industry. This article by Rolling Stone said, Clive Davis has been asked to face a grand jury probe into interstate heroin trafficking and possible connections between payola by and Columbia Records. Clive Davis has been fired by his company and sued for alleged personal use of company funds. His contract is null and void. He has been depicted by a CBS officer as a culprit found involved in hanky-panky. He has been fingered by once loyal executive assistant as the man responsible for authorizing the practice of payola at Columbia Records. For those wondering, payola is a bribery scheme where labels give money to radio stations or other media outlets to make them promote artists' songs. Apparently, Clive was authorizing the use of payola while he was president of Columbia Records and using company funds to order escorts and drugs for artists. Chile, Clive Davis is as shady as they come, and he might even be much worse than Diddy because the only reason why he hasn't been caught yet is that he's been good at covering his tracks so far either through intimidation or threats or anything else that gets the job done. So there's more than enough for the feds to look if they want to get him. And if word on the street is anything to go by, then Clive might be spending the rest of his retirement in jail right along with his mentee and lover Diddy. But get this, ever since the feds started investigating Clive Davis, rumors have started circulating that the real reason why he hasn't been caught yet is that he's an informant for the feds. This theory was broken down during a recent episode of The Sean Ryan Show, where they also said Clive might be passing information about other industry moguls to the feds for protection. Into the beast they are. Enter Clive Davis, the heavyweight music exec whose name's practically synonymous with legends like TLC, Whitney Houston, and Brandy. Back in the 90s, when hip-hop was bubbling up, Diddy caught Clive's eye. See, Diddy had this vision that hip-hop was gonna blow up big time, and he managed to sell Clive on the idea. Next thing you know, Clive's bankrolling Diddy's Bad Boy Records, taking him under his wing and teaching him the ropes. With Clive's backing, Diddy skyrockets to hip-hop mogul status, reaching heights he never could have dreamed of without Clive in his corner. Now here's where it gets shady. Industry whispers have been himself. The whispers suggest that Whitney was seen as expendable, a relic of the past in an industry constantly hungry for fresh faces. And so the theory goes, Clive saw fit to eliminate her, clearing the path for newer, younger talent like Brandy to take the stage. But it gets even more sinister. An investigator claims to have uncovered evidence suggesting foul play in Whitney's death, defensive wounds that don't quite add up with the official narrative of her death, and the timing of it all is enough to send shivers down your spine. Clive Davis hosting a pre-Grammy party in the very hotel where Whitney's lifeless body was discovered. Now that's just messed up. People couldn't wrap their heads around how they were popping bottles downstairs while Whitney's lifeless body was upstairs. Someone wrote, "What kind of friend would be able to have a party as the body of Whitney Houston is still in the building?" Just sick and very disrespectful to Whitney and her family. I mean, how does one do that? It's very scary to think that this man claimed to love Whitney and the thought never crossed his mind to cancel the party. No, he just cares about the money. Just revealing that it never crossed his mind to cancel this event just proves that he's 100% heartless. The only thing he loved was the fame and fortune Whitney vastly provided him with. Like, Houston's body remained in the hotel room for hours while the party raged on downstairs. Clive tried to do some damage control, claiming it was meant to be a tribute to Whitney.
I was there that historic night, that party that you throw every year, and the tragic day that she died. That there were many. Why did you let the party go on?
Of course, this is a personal thing, but the Grammys were the next night. You don't cancel. You turn an evening into a tribute.
You did a magnificent evening.
Into...
Did you give a thought to canceling?
Never.
You never thought?
Never.
Did you ever think...
And the family did not want me to give a thought.
Didn't?
No.
But no one's buying that. Some of her close friends threw some major shade at him, calling his decision insanity. According to them, it was the...
whose life he had influenced so enormously, and whose life had been affected by her. So they were like, I don't understand how that party went.
And then there's the cryptic note Whitney allegedly passed to Brandy just days before her passing. The fans noticed too, saying, Brandy's face after she read the note says it all. Now let's connect the dots and dive into Diddy's part in this whole Clive-Whitney saga.
Kim told someone very close to her that she thought he was trying to kill her. Just like Whitney Houston sent a note and said that they was trying to kill her. Just like Janis Joplin sent a note and said they was trying to kill her when Clive Davis had only been managing her for a year. I'm gonna find that promissory note, Clive, I promise you. I'm gonna treat this shit like a treasure hunt. These fuckers been killing people for years.
What many don't know is that Diddy made an